everyone, I'm Healy Gardner and I am your course instructor for health psychology. So just wanted to post a general introductory video. I'm going to go over all of the documents on Blackboard regarding the assignments, the weekly schedule, the syllabus. So this has all been up for you for about a week now, so please go look at it on your own. I just find sometimes it helps to hear things right from the mouth of the instructor, so to speak. So disclaimer, I am by no means a video editor or a video recorder. I'm just gonna record it and post it, so there won't be any fancy editing or anything like that. So I apologize in advance for any blundering or stuttering or, getting stuck. So, I'm a PhD student in the clinical psychology program, and I've spent the past 4 years helping with intro psych. The past 2 years I've been kind of Dr. Singleton Jackson's right hand. So hopefully I'll be able to pass on some nuggets of wisdom in this video and things that I found helpful when you're studying for psychology. I know some of you are psych majors, but the majority of you are nursing students, so you may never have worked with psychology subjects before, and studying psychology can sometimes be a bit different. Sometimes it's a bit harder than people expect because the material isn't as clear cut. It's not like blank is the first digit on your hand, thumb. Sometimes it's a bit more ambiguous, like so-and-so went out and did this thing and this happened. Now, what could this be an example of? So sometimes the questions are a bit more gray area, more of the best fitting answer. It's not a clear-cut answer. So I'll try and give you some advice for how to study for those kinds of things. So first of all, as you know, this will be all online. So I'm using Blackboard for everything, with the exception of the textbook, obviously, but all assignments, exams, quizzes, everything will be on Blackboard. So keep a very close eye on announcements. If it's super important, I'll usually choose to have any announcements sent out as an email to all students so everyone gets everything. But just so I'm not spamming your inbox with announcements, keep an eye on Blackboard. I tend to lean more on the side of over communication just to make sure. Sometimes it can be a little annoying for those of you that don't need that much communication, but for the people that miss things, it's good to be more safe than sorry. So this is the textbook we'll be using. I put a picture of it on Blackboard. Health Psychology, 10th edition by Shelley Taylor. It's the American edition. The Canadian edition either is going through a revision, I can't remember, but so because it's the American edition, it has all US statistics. Not a big deal. I don't foresee statistics being overly important unless maybe it's a massive statistic. It's more the concepts that are obviously the important thing to understand. So as I said on Blackboard, and as you can see through the bookstore, the main platform or format for this book that we're using is McGraw-Hill Connect. So it's kind of like an online learning interactive ebook kind of thing. If anyone took intro psych over the past year, it's similar to Revel, where you can do like quizzes and assignments on this online platform. I've said on Blackboard already, I'm not using it for anything other than an ebook, so it really doesn't matter the format that you have. You can have the physical book, you can have an ebook if it exists, or you can use Connect. The idea behind using this Connect format was at least then you just buy an access code and you don't have to worry about shipping, because I know how slow mail service has become right now. But as long as you have this edition of this textbook, you're fine. It doesn't matter what format of the book you get. That said, we will be doing quizzes, but they will be all through Blackboard. So the Connect thing can have quiz features. I'm just not going to use them. I'm sure it has excellent value from my experience with Revel, which is like another publishing company, same idea. It has a lot of great features. This is the first time this course has been offered in this format for the nursing students and some psychology students. And with it being online, everything's just a little too up in the air to throw in an online interactive platform. So I'm just trying to keep things simpler. So that's the textbook, and there won't be any in-person office hours because we unfortunately can't do anything in person. So I have quote unquote office hours, as you can see on the syllabus, from Wednesdays from 12 to 2 and Thursdays 1 to 3. So today's Friday the 15th of March. Our course goes live on Tuesday, so right after the May long weekend. So my office hours will start next week. So basically, because I won't be in an office for in-person office hours, it just means I'm guaranteed to be available during those windows. If you need to call me or email me or whatever, I'll just be much more responsive. Outside of that, obviously you can email me or reach out to me at other times. And same for our 4 GAs, Alicia, Stephanie, Julia, and Mem. Those office hours, they're not holding, it's more just reach out to them when you need them. Their emails are also on the syllabus. So with that, obviously, like I said, my office hours, I'll be much more immediately responsive. Outside of those times, feel free to fire off an email whenever you're thinking of it. I'm a big believer in work-life balance. I'm a clinical psychologist, so obviously, mental health is always kind of weighing on my mind. So for myself and for my GAs, I don't expect anyone to answer email outside of business hours or weekends or holidays. They can if they want to. Sometimes I do as well, because quite personally, having a ton of notifications makes me really anxious. So sometimes I'll answer emails at 11 at night or on the weekend just to get it done. I'm also worried if I don't answer right away, I'll totally forget. So if the GAs choose to answer emails, or if I choose to answer emails on non-business hour times, that's fine, but it's not the expectation. So if you fire off an email like Friday at 6, it's possible you may not hear back until Monday. That said, if it's been a few business days, like if you emailed on Monday and by Thursday you haven't heard anything, feel free to send another follow-up email, just making sure. I don't know about you, but I find my inbox is going absolutely crazy right now because everything's online. So it's totally possible that an email could get lost or buried. So just keep in mind those off times. People are allowed to unplug, take breaks. But if you haven't heard anything, feel free to send another poke. So you've got my email. I'm just looking at the syllabus as I go. You got my email, you got my cell. Usually we'd be able to give like an office, like a university number with an extension, so I don't have to give you my personal cell number. But obviously we don't really have that luxury right now. So I definitely have a preference for you reaching out to me via email. At least to start, if it's something you and I needed to discuss, like that could be a different conversation. But I definitely have a preference for email first. But of course, if it's an emergency, my number's there if you need it. Let's see. So we did the required materials. And then in the syllabus, you can see the curriculum and weekly schedule. And there's another document that goes over the full weekly schedule, like a breakdown. So the chapters in this book are relatively short depending on the chapter. So like, for example, chapter 2 goes over all the systems in the body. So that one's a bit longer, but then some of the other ones are shorter. And I've read the first few chapters in length thus far, and I find it's not too bad, like time-wise. So some of the weeks will be going over one chapter by itself, especially the larger ones, but other weeks will be doing one chapter and a bit of another chapter, just to try and keep things at a manageable pace. Because this is a 12-week course, we have a lot more time than if it was the 6-week courses. and it's still 15 chapters to fit into 12 weeks. So because we're not doing like online lectures, there's no set class time. You can read at your own pace. Feel free to read ahead if you like, but just be aware of the deadlines and the expectations on the weekly schedule so you know what pace I'm going at. So keep a close eye on the weekly schedule, especially for the times where we're doing only part of a chapter in a week. So for example, week 3, so June 1st to the 7th, we'll be doing all of chapter 3 and part of chapter 4. So in brackets, I'll say what part. So from the beginning of the chapter until and including the part on sun safety practices. So I mean, if you're on a roll, you can do the whole chapter, but just so you know, the parts we'll be focusing on each week. This was news to me because obviously I've never really paid attention to 12-week courses in the summertime, but we do have a reading week because it's a 12-week course. So June 29th to July 5th is a reading week, so there won't be any assigned readings there. And we go until the week of August 10th to the 16th, and then there's a few days break until the exam period. So as you know, we don't know when that final exam will be. I'm assuming they'll announce it I'm guessing late June, early July. So we do know that the final exam will occur sometime between the 21st to the 24th of August. So you have to be available during those times. It'll be all online anyway, so it doesn't matter what city you're in. But we don't know what day. So you just have to make sure you're going to be available. So if you have work, try and block those 4 days off anyway, just to be ahead of the curve so you never have any issue. I believe it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday are those days. So as soon as we know, I'll post that on Blackboard. So the breakdown of the course. So final exam, like I said, but we're going to have chapter quizzes. As I said, everything's completed on Blackboard. These quizzes will only have 20 questions on them, and they're only worth 1% each, so 15% total. And look at the weekly schedule for a breakdown on the deadline or the due dates for each quiz. I'm going to have them available to you for 10 days at a time. So for example, the first quiz, so quizzes 1 and 2 are due on the same day. And it's May 29th by 4 p.m. So you'll have 10 days, which means they'll both be available on Tuesday on May 19th by 4 p.m. So you'll have 10 days to do each one. And you'll have 1 attempt per quiz, so you can only take it once. And we'll have it set up so that you don't get to see the answers right away, just in case, say, I did the quiz on one day and then my friend went to do it the next day and she looked at my answers before doing it. Just to make sure none of that happens, we're gonna have it so that you can see all the answers after the due date. So if you don't see the answers right away, that's okay. Just wait until after the due date and then check back again. If the due date's passed and you can't see the answers, let me know, just in case there's any weird technology stuff going on. The biggest thing is the quizzes can't be made up for any reason. They're only worth 1% each, so this is built with the intent that you do all the work and you don't miss any quizzes, and you're given 10 days to do it. But if something happens and you do miss 1 or 2, like, they're only worth 1%, so it's not a big deal. But we can't have anyone making them up for any reason. That's why they're worth so little and you're given so much time to do them. It's just too much, especially with everything being online right now, to be doing releases for one student at a time. So don't miss those. If you do, not a big deal, but there won't be any extensions or anything for those. And then you have your midterm. So the midterm will be available for about a 48-hour period. So I have it set to be available starting at like 12:01 midnight on June 24th until 11:59 p.m. on June 26th. So I'll go over assignment descriptions, but we have that document on Blackboard, and that'll outline descriptions for everything that you're getting graded for. So that will cover the first 7 chapters. So chapter 1 to 7 inclusive is going to be all multiple choice, probably between 70, 80 questions. I haven't made those decisions, but it will be all multiple choice and be on Blackboard. The format will be similar to the quizzes in answering them, so you'll kind of know how the system works by the time the midterm comes around. So you're only going to have 1 attempt, because I can't have you doing an exam multiple times with the same questions. But you can take as long as you need, right? You have 48 hours. So you have to do it in 1 shot, but that 1 shot can be as long as you need it to be. So if you needed like extra time or something within 48 hours, in theory, you could take up to 48 hours. And then the final exam will be a very similar format to the midterm, like might be 48 hours, something like that, but it'll be all multiple choice on Blackboard. And then we'll have a 2-part assignment, like written assignment, so you can test your applied knowledge, and it's called a healthy change journal. So the due dates will be, the first one will be due June 19th at 5 p.m. and the second one is due August 7th at 5 p.m. and you'll submit those on Blackboard. It'll be graded on Blackboard. I'll post a lot of instructions on how to upload things onto Blackboard. For example, it has to be either PDF or docx format, because those are the only formats that the Blackboard like document editing system can actually open. So in order to grade it on Blackboard, we need to be able to see it. So I'll have those posted to you well in advance. If you look at the assignment details document on Blackboard, I have outlines on when you'll be able to see those. So the first one will be posted on resources on Blackboard by May 22nd. So I believe that's Friday, like next Friday. So you're gonna have several weeks, like 4-ish weeks to do the first one. And then the second one, instructions will be posted by July 7th. So again, you'll have a full month to do that from the time that you get the instructions. So the idea behind this is to be able to actually give you something to apply your knowledge to. So keep an eye out for the full instructions, but the gist will be trying to pick a health behavior that you want to work on and looking at the barriers behind not being able to do it and looking at how successful you are in trying to change it. So actually trying to take this psychology stuff and apply it in your life to make it a little more relevant to you. So keep an eye out for the full instructions. But about those, I will say, again, this is my clinical psych side coming out, but this isn't a promotion for you to try and lose weight or diet or change something about yourself. So keep in mind, whatever you do for this assignment, do it within your own limits, mental and physical, overall wellness limits. So it can be something as simple as trying to drink more water or talk to people more often. As you'll see from chapter 1, health refers to, overall wellness refers to an interplay of everything, right? So social, mental, emotional, physical. So when looking at areas to try and change your behavior, it can be absolutely anything. So keep an eye out for the assignments for that. And like with the quizzes, because I'm giving you so much time to do this, I'm giving you a full month to do this for each of them, we're not accepting any late assignments. So we'll have the submission box open on Blackboard, and basically it closes at the deadline and then it disappears. So you'll have a full month to do it, and that'll give you plenty of time. And then last, I said the final. So the last piece, and this is under the assignment details document. Actually, I will say for the final exam, it'll be all multiple choice, but it's cumulative, which means it's the stuff from the midterm and the stuff after the midterm, so it covers the whole textbook, everything's game. Of course, there will be more. I always get this question. There will be more emphasis on the stuff you haven't been tested on yet, so chapters 8 to 15. But anything goes. So chapter 1 to 7 will still be on the exam. So there are bonus points that you can get for this course. You can earn up to 2 bonus points, and those are basically just like bonus percents. So if you finish the class with a 78 and you got your 2 bonus points, then it just tops it off to an 80. So there's 2 ways. You can either participate in the psych participant pool, or you can do an alternative assignment. So the participant pool for the summer is going to be all online courses because we can't, or online studies because we can't do any in-person research. But you have to sign up for the psychology participant pool. You have to self-register, so this is all on you, before the date specific on the website. So if you go to the assignment details document that I posted, there's a link to the website that you can look up. You have to self-register, and then you can just sign up for studies. This is not mandatory, that's why it's called bonus points. And you can do the alternative assignment if you decide not to participate in research. I will say, as a grad student, the participant pool is basically how undergrads and graduate students get their degrees. If it wasn't for you guys, many of us wouldn't have a lot of data. So it's a really great thing to take part of. We use the participant pool for our master's theses, our undergrad theses, our PhD dissertations. You basically help us get our degrees. So if you're comfortable with it, I definitely encourage you to do it. And it's a good way to get to know, maybe not so much with the online people or the online studies, but it's a good way to get to know, if you're interested in research, like who's doing what kind of research and what faculty members you might be interested in working with, if that was something you were kind of into. If you do the participant pool, I was just told from them that because our course extends the entire summer, it does reset at the end of the intersession term. So usually courses in the summer are either intersession May, June, or summer, which is June, July, or July, August, but we're covering that whole thing. So they're going to give me a reminder come mid-June probably, but you'll have to re-register again for the summertime. So the pool is basically going to close at the end of June and reopen again in July. So I'll have to remind them again to put our course up for bonus points, and you'll have to re-register again. But just go to the website link in the assignment details document, and you'll be able to see that all for yourself. If you decide not to do research for the bonus points, you can do the alternative assignment instead. So still a max of 2 points. For this assignment, just pick a topic you're into that has to come from any of the chapters for this course, but it has to come from something that's covered this course. And what you're going to do is find a mainstream media article. So it could be newspaper, it could be a blog, it could be internet, it could be a magazine, whatever. Basically a non-scholarly article. And then find an article from a scholarly journal that deals with the same topic. So what you're going to do is read both articles and write a 3-page analysis comparing the two. Maybe the scholarly one and the mainstream article are actually saying the same thing, which is what you hope for. And how often are things a little bit misleading if they're not from scholarly sources? So that's for you to find out. So it's going to be APA format. You have to cite, no plagiarism. And there's a list of points to include in this paper, and you can see that in the assignment documents. And the deadline would be 4 p.m. on August 3rd, and you'd submit it on Blackboard. So that's a pretty good rundown of everything that you're going to get graded on. But if you want more detail, please go and read that assignment details document on Blackboard. It covers pretty much everything. And then look at the weekly schedule along with the syllabus, but the weekly schedule really expands on every single thing that we're going to be doing every single week. And that's pretty much everything for how the course is going to work. Otherwise, just to give you kind of an idea of how to do well in this course. Everyone's different, so this is more just my opinion and my experience. But because, like I said, psychology deals with a lot of things that aren't super black and white, a lot of concepts that are very, very related, you're going to want to try and actually use these things as opposed to just memorizing, right? So first of all, read the textbook. Yes, I'm going to give you the lecture material, along with either a video like this or an audio recording or something, probably embedded in the PowerPoint, so you know it's like with that specific slide that I'm talking about. But the PowerPoints won't cover the whole book, probably about like 70 to 80%. Because if you're going to buy this thing, I want you to actually get some use out of it. So be sure to read the textbook, because as long as it's in the textbook, it could be on the exam, even if it's not in the PowerPoint, because you want to have some practice learning on your own and like teaching yourself. And try and actually use this stuff as opposed to just reading the textbook or reading the PowerPoint over and over again. That's just like rote memory. And we know that the more you use something, the better you remember it, right? Because the more it becomes integrated in what you do. So a lot of times with psychology, it kind of sounds like a lot of big, fancy, complicated terms. But remember, these are just big, fancy, complicated terms to describe something that someone saw happening every day. So trying to think of an example. Like conditioning, classical conditioning. Fancy term that came from Pavlov realizing his dog was drooling when he rang a bell because he thought he was going to get food. And eventually, if he paired those things enough times, the bell and the food, he could ring a bell and his dog would drool. So you can see that all the time. Like, how do you train a dog? If I want my dog to sit, I say sit and I'm holding a treat, and he sits, then he gets the treat. Eventually, I don't have to have a treat, I just say sit. So classical conditioning, big fancy term just to describe if you pair things together enough, eventually you can get the same response with either thing. They don't have to be paired anymore. So try and think of things that in everyday life that describe the stuff that you're reading about. So when we talk about the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, sympathetic is fight and flight, parasympathetic is rest and digest. Try and think of a time that maybe you're playing tag and someone was chasing you, and what was happening to you then. Your heart was beating really fast. Maybe you felt really warm because it was pumping blood to the extremities so you could move, and it was shutting down non-essential things. So you didn't need to pee, because it would not be very useful to feel like you needed to pee when you're trying to protect yourself. Like, that's not really a good time. But then when you calm down and parasympathetic nervous system kicks in, then you might realize, oh shit, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I do need to pee. So try and take these things and use them in your own life. Bonus points for yourself if you can make it self-referential, because we remember things that are relevant to ourselves better than things that aren't. So if you can try and apply things to your own life, but either way, just try and put real life examples to stuff. That really helps. Otherwise, try and use the more senses you use, the better you'll remember something, because the more effort you're actually putting in, right? So just reading a chapter versus reading it out loud. Just reading it is just your eyes reading, but if you read it out loud, now you have your eyes and your voice. If you write it, now you're using your tactile abilities too. So if you know, like for me, I'm very hands-on, I'm a very tactile learner. If I write something and I read it to myself, I'm gonna remember it a lot better than if I just read something. So try and involve yourself in things a lot more and try and actually use the information instead of just remembering it. Otherwise, that's all I can really think of right now. So like I said, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. Right after this, I'm going to be recording some videos and audio for the Chapter 1 lecture slides. I have the slides done, I just want to add the video, and then I'm going to post it on Blackboard. Feel free to reach out if something's not working or something doesn't make sense, but keep a close eye on anything that I post on Blackboard, just in case it's something that's already covered. A lot of times, I'd say 8 out of 10 of the questions people ask are probably already in the syllabus or something, so just keep an eye out for yourself. And then if you still have questions about something, let me know. But otherwise, I am looking forward to the next 12 weeks with you guys. So everyone stay safe. Shout out to the nursing students and all the nurses right now keeping us safe, and to any essential service workers or anyone working right now, even if you're just working in a drive-through, just thank you for everyone doing their parts. And everyone, please stay safe and enjoy your summer otherwise. Nice to meet you virtually, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.